Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of the Fintech Hunting Podcast. We have an amazing guest for you today. She's an industry thought leader. She's a fintech pioneer. She's passionate about delivering intelligent automation to drive down the cost to originate. I couldn't be more excited to welcome back to the show Kathy Mantych, Senior Director of Business Development at Silverwork Solutions. Kathy, it's great to see you, my friend.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much for having me again. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, well, it is great to have you. You have a wealth of knowledge and expertise, and I kind of want to dive right in. We know the industry is challenging. We've heard it throughout the year. We don't need to go back over that. But as lenders look to reduce costs, where do bots come into play in that equation?
Yeah, and first of all, I have to correct you. It's not just bots. There are bots out there, and I like to call them plugins. So it's a little bit of a differentiator in what I think and where we should be going, which is taking on a whole persona, a role-based automation. What makes the most sense is taking that position, whether it's a processor, a loan officer, a closer, and beyond, is really where you want to be, because that's going to give you the most lift. You're taking that technology and that structure and really making it as if it were a human in place of your staff member. They're going to act like your staff member. They're going to work with the other staff and be communicative and collaborative, although they are technology, right? So they're going to be operating 24/7, where your human counterpart will not be able to do that. So that lift is huge right now as people are considering cost, but they want that efficiency. So, where does all that go, right?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because my next question was, hey, not all bots are created equal. And so what you're saying is, because a lot of people, I think, say, oh, I've got a bot. And what they've really done is they've created some business logic. They've created a few business rules that can help do some automation. But what we're really talking about, and I think where you started drawing the line of distinction, is when it takes on a human persona. When you can have intelligent automation, where you're using AI, when you're using other technologies, and it takes on the role of a processor, the role of an opener, the role of a closer, and you have that whole persona, that's where you're going to see the lift, and that's where you're going to also see the reduction in costs, right? Because one of the biggest challenges we have, and Jonathan Kors used to say this all the time, is in the mortgage industry, we have a problem with human spackle. When times are great, we throw bodies at it. And when times are struggling, we cut all those people. Talk to me about persona-based bots and how they help eliminate that big, huge swings of ups and downs.
Absolutely. And you hit it right on the head. And that's where I think a big struggle is too right now, right? So we know it's going to change. I mean, we all know that. We just got to hang in there. This is tough. It's been one of the tougher ones that I've been through. But that is the reality, that it is going to change. And so, so people have been laid off, or I think more importantly, those companies in the industry that have kept their people, maybe they're utilizing them elsewhere. And that's where the persona-based bots come in, right? So if you're hiring more LOs, if you're hiring more processors, you can gear up without having, one, either let a ton of people go, so it's stabilizing your operation with your human capital. Or two, you're not having to continue that, as you said, that huge swing in hiring and firing. You don't want to do that, because if you've got good people in your shop, keep them, but maybe deploy them elsewhere in your organization, because there's something that people are unique, and you're not going to replace them with bots. However, you're going to give that much more efficient role to that bot or to that persona and really flush out and stabilize your operation because of it.
Well, and I think that's such a good point, because if you can really use and leverage technology so you don't have those big ups and downs, I call it the mortgage roller coaster, when you're just throwing bodies at it or cutting bodies. For one, it's going to allow you to scale much quicker, right? Like you said early on, a bot can be working 24/7. And if it takes on that persona, you're going to have much greater efficiencies. But when the market does turn, and we know it will, we don't have a crystal ball. If you and I had a crystal ball, we'd probably be on the beach somewhere and we wouldn't be having this discussion. But we don't have a crystal ball when it's going to turn, but it's going to turn. We've both been in the industry, let's just say a number of decades. We'll leave it at that. But we know it's going to turn, and the mistake we don't want people to make is just to then just throw bodies at it.
Right.
So one of the other things I hear though is, companies they've invested, they've kind of created their own bots. Talk to me about why a lender creating their own bots versus go out and go to partner with somebody who that's all they do is they create bots and the bots are persona based. Talk to me about the difference between kind of building in shop versus really going out and partnering and collaborating with someone else.
Sure, sure. So there's a lot of points to touch in there, and not knocking those that have built bots. I mean, I think that's great. They're pioneering. They're forward thinking. But when we say bots versus persona, the bots that they're building may be patchwork, maybe just little pieces of the entire chain and not the whole solution, right? So maybe they want a piece of that. Maybe they want to just communicate back to the title agent, and that's one piece. But if you're looking at someone who is a closer, you want to look at all of the above. You want to look at all, documents and the data and the verification and the title commitment and all of that. So if you're taking and having to build bots for each little piece and part that a role does, you're probably looking at 50 bots, right? As if that's, and maybe you're going to miss something. Not only that, you're probably spending a ton of money, a ton of time, and you're using up resources internally that you may not have, right? But if you're doing a persona, if you're letting someone else do it who has already done the work, who thinks like a lender because they've been in lender shops and they know those roles, then you're that much further ahead. You're not spending the IT, you're not having to support internal infrastructure. All you're doing is paying for the usage of that persona, which is, like having a staff member on board, right? And you don't have to teach it because it already knows the position, right? So there's no training.
Exactly. And I think that is huge. And let's be honest, some of your clients have started naming their bots. Is that correct? Tell me a little bit about that, because I'm fascinated. Your tagline is, you've got a really cool tagline. Tell me about your tagline, and then talk to me about how that really applies with people naming their bots.
Yeah, we do have a super cool tagline. It's technology that's brilliantly human. And so a lot of our clients have actually named their bots. One of our client has named their bots after the Jetsons, and so there's Rosie and Elroy and Astro, and so one of the cool stories on that is that one of the bots actually responded to one of their borrower clients, and as if they thought they were talking to one of the folks at the lender shop, and they were not. They were talking to a bot.
Well, and I think it's fascinating because I think bringing that human element, right? In the mortgage industry, we're not just saying let's eliminate all the jobs, let's eliminate all closers and processors it's how do you leverage technology to maximize the subject matter expertise that you have, but then leverage these bots to allow the bots to get a lot more work done, handle more volume, crunch through the manual redundant tasks. And the fact that they can take on a persona and people are naming them, that, wow, it's really working. Hey, Astro, do this. And Astro's in charge of closing, or Rosie. And I don't know which names they have for which bots, but I find it's fascinating. Talk to me a little bit about the different types of personas that you have. Like, what are some of the categories that you can really help lenders and give that uplift that they're looking for?
Absolutely. So there is, if you think about the loan cycle, at the very forefront, you've got prequalification or pre-approval, whatever, that terminology is. You've got processing, so we've got a processor persona. We've the disclosure persona. We have a services persona that's going out and ordering all of the services, and we've got closing persona, post close, change of circumstance. We have a lock desk persona. So if you think about all of those, but also think of it like a spokes in a wheel. So you've got maybe some major, but then there's some minor little outward things that have to be touched as well. So just because we've got the major categories for major staffing, I would say,
Yep.
names, they do hundreds of things in the background, right? It's not just that, but it does many, many, many things. So you're looking at a category of perhaps, a processor category or processor persona with the services bot. However, there's hundreds of bots underneath doing, multitasking events that are happening.
Well, and you guys aren't new to bots. You guys have been doing this for years. You have a team of mortgage experts who have been on the lending side of it, who have been on the technology side of it.
Right.
I think it's super exciting. And what would you tell people if they have some bots in their shop, if they're thinking of bots, why should they take a look at what you guys are doing?
Yeah, and that's great. And like I said before, not knocking anybody who has deployed some, but if you're really looking for that huge lift and you want to, as opposed to having to hire a bunch of people or taking your people internally and maybe retrain them to do something different in your shop, this is the thing to look at, because you're looking at an entire loan officer at your disposal, or an entire processor or a closer that you can have in your shop working 24/7, and it just runs.
Well, and they're seeing significant cost reductions in the cost to originate. We've seen
Absolutely.
so many of the write-ups from MBA, whether it's 11,000 a loan, whether it's 13,000 a loan. I think
Oh,
what we
yeah.
can all agree on is it's too high. And if
Right.
you can leverage these persona-based bots and start reducing the cost to originate because you've got an opening bot or you got a
Yeah.
prequal or you got a closing bot, that's where I think people are going to see a big uplift in technology and cost reduction.
Yeah.
Kathy, we've got MBA coming up in Philly. I look forward to seeing you soon, my friend.
Absolutely.
What is the best way that people can get a hold of you? I know you've got a jam-packed schedule, but if somebody wants to see the bots in action, how can they meet with you in Philly at MBA Annual?
Yeah, I would love to talk to them. So there's a couple ways. They can go right to our website, silverworksolutions.com. Also on LinkedIn, look me up on LinkedIn, Kathy Mantych. And I do have links to my calendar. So go ahead and please book, or just hit me up on LinkedIn directly, and we'll find a time to meet.
Outstanding. Well, I can't wait to see you in Philly. Kathy, safe
Likewise.
travels, and we'll see you soon, my friend.
Safe travels to you. Thanks so much, Michael. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.